Game 3 last night in Philadelphia with the Sixers wearing those late 90s, early aughts throwbacks.
Yeah.
Allen Iverson in attendance.
The AI jerseys.
Bit of a rock fight. Felt like, okay, I was wondering if I was going to have to come in here today and ask you, Chris, okay, now can we be a little bit concerned? Because you came out of Game 2 saying, like, it happens. You even said, like, even if this series went 6, nothing to see here.
Yeah, I mean, I because I thought there could be a game, and we already got that game where the Sixers shot out of their minds. How did VJ Edgecombe shoot last night? 5 of 17, 0 of 7 from 3. After hitting 6 in Game 2.
Not just missing from 3, but like embarrassingly so. That last one he took, the 7th one, was, I mean, I can shoot an air ball like that, little guy. He was phenomenal in Game 2.
He's 0 for 12 from 3 in the other 2 games, other than the game where he hit 6 threes.
Yeah. So, no, look, I mean, he came back down to earth last night. But this team, I'll give them this. This Sixers team has been more of a challenge than I thought they would be so far.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the Celtics will take it in 5, but if it goes 6, I'm not going to, sit there and say it's a panic failure for the Celtics. Because to your point, I think that this is a Sixers team that plays hard and still has some talent with Paul George and Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. And again, in a playoff series, you can have a game where somebody gets really, really hot. Edgecombe was that guy in Game 2. I still think in this game, there's going to be there's going to be one game. I don't know if the Celtics will win it or not win it, where like Oubre or Quentin Grimes has some sort of Grant Williams type of game, and those things can kind of happen. But when you look at what happened last night, I think it was good for the Celtics to be in a close game that they had to close out. That hasn't necessarily been their strength this year. They were 16 and 17 in the clutch. And it was good to see Jayson Tatum be the one who, closed it out, hitting those 2 huge three-pointers. So I think it's the type of game that, yeah, sure, you'd like to blow everybody out. You'd like to curb stomp the Sixers and move on to the next series. But I do think you can gain something, learn something, gain some confidence. It's constructive for them to go through a game like that last night, especially on the road.
Yeah, and I have to think in terms of just if there's any, and there's got to be some residual. His confidence level can't be where it's been pre-injury, right? You have to think with Jayson Tatum, that's just natural. And he has struggled from 3 in this series so far. So it's been 5 for his past 25, 3 for 15 in the series. But those 2 he hits in a 91-second span, and then the one that really closed it out. You have to think that that's something that really helps him build up his confidence going forward. That was like vintage Tatum last night. That, to me, feels like, okay, this is why I believe this team should get the hell out of the East, because if he's going to be making plays like that and coming back to form like that in big moments to close out games, well, I mean, the ceiling's obviously very high for this team. Bro.
Yeah, and Tim Bontemps had this in his story on ESPN. Before the free throws at the end, the kind of meaningless free throws at the end that Derrick White hit, there were 29 points scored in the fourth quarter, including those White free throws by the Celtics. 27 of them were either scored or assisted by Tatum and Brown. Those guys really let him home. Tatum was 4 or 5 from the field in the fourth for 11 points. Jaylen Brown hit some big shots. He was 3 of 4. So when you look at it, those 2 guys being able to power them to the end. I thought Peyton Pritchard was really good last night. That's a guy I'd sort of looked at and said, he has to shoot better than he shot earlier in this series. He was 5 of 10 from 3. They needed that. But when you look at the ability to lean on Tatum and Brown during closing time, that should be a separator for the Celtics in the East.
And the emotion you saw from Tatum after he hit that last 3, I think was like a finals level emotion, not a Game 3 of the first round. So I think that kind of signals just how big that moment was for him, because, as you said, Jim, the 3-point shooting has been the biggest question mark so far and hasn't been all the way back yet. So for him to make 2 in the final 3 minutes there, and for him to collaborate with Jaylen down the stretch and lead him to the finish line, that was pretty big.
Yeah, and it's kind of what Bill Parcells said, right? Bill Parcells said confidence is solely the result of demonstrated ability. For Tatum, yeah, he demonstrated the ability before the injury, but this is kind of a different phase of his career, and not only physically, but mentally. And so he needs to be able to see himself do it again.
But let's get to the negatives, though, because, there's a reason that they are struggling a little bit, or these games are a little bit tighter than I expected. B-Rob, start with you. So, like, the play of Vucevic being in there last night.
Defensively?
The fact that they only have, right now, what feels like 4 scorers. Peyton Pritchard is Peyton Pritchard. Like, okay, you see him can go off in a regular season game, but he's inconsistent. Derrick White is having a horrific shooting year. He's been mostly cold. Are these the reasons that this has been more of a struggle, or is it something else?
No, I think you nailed. Those are the big ones. the Derrick White situation is concerning from the shooting and from a standpoint that he's been down at 33% from three all season. And now, so this isn't just like, oh, he's just in a slump. Like, no, this is a bit of a concern there, how long this is dragged on. And he's still making important plays. He had those monster offensive rebounds. He's contributing in other ways, but you're going to need Peyton Pritchard to have shooting nights like this to kind of balance that out from Derrick White. And I don't know, Chris, what you thought about the front court experience, but that's something that's not going to go away in terms of Vooch. Got its chance there, had some moments, but also very much showed what his liabilities were in the beginning.
I have a couple, and just on Derrick White shooting, I know Missoula and the guys are trying to downplay it, but I mean obviously he was 3 of 12 last night, 1 of 8 from 3. He's shooting 25% from 20% from 3 in the series. But of a bigger concern, and look, he made huge plays last night. I'm not taking that away from him. But of a bigger concern for me is last night, 2 assists, 2 turnovers. Game 2, 3 assists, 3 turnovers. That's not Derrick White to have as many assists as turnovers. So it's not just about the shooting. On the offensive end, he's kind of at this point been disastrous, to be honest with you. And even last night during that game, that awful, awful prime crew. Oh, God, that was so bad.
Do you know the meme? We all know it. The meme of the guy leaning back in his chair, ripping off his headphones. That's me and everyone else last night. So that's apparently the Charlotte Hornets broadcast crew?
Yep.
That's horrific.
I love Del Curry, but that was so bad. But even they pointed out this, which was good, late in the fourth quarter. They said the Sixers are daring Derrick White to shoot the ball on offense. They were daring him to do it.
Or it's just inane nonsense. Is that who is Del Curry is the color man?
Yeah,
Yep.
Del Curry, yeah.
These guys are good. No kidding. They're in the NBA for a reason. You've played at the highest level. If this is what you're going to add,
bad.
if this is what you've got to add to the broadcast, then just say nothing, Del.
I was looking for something. Normally they have the alternate. I'm like, is there some sort of alternate broadcast or like Prime Vision or just something else
With Spanish?
Yes. Can I hit the SAP button? Is there something else we can do here?
I should have just tried to sync it up to our broadcast because
it's a good point.
Yeah.
Holy crap, was that bad?
I've never,
my God.
ever, and I don't, love you, mean it, Drew. I've never, ever longed for Drew Carter more than I did last night. I was like, please bring back Drew and Scout. Like, this is brutal.
The word in the street was Eric Collins might have done a fill-in game for the Celtics a year or two ago.
Really?
When Corbin wasn't on the road at that point.
Oh, interesting.
remember.
That was brutal. But to my point with the Derrick White thing, they need to get his confidence offensively. I think something that's kind of flying under the radar, or maybe not for you guys that are on the beat, B-Rob, but I think for some people, this was a concern I had about Neemias Queta from the jump. He can't stay on the floor in the series. The amount of fouls he's getting, I mean, that's really hurting the Celtics, I think, in this series. The fact that he can't stay on the floor, that he can't stay out of foul trouble. And again, this was something that I pointed out during the regular season, just how prone he was to fouling. He's averaging 4 fouls a game in this series, and it takes them like out of their rhythm a little bit. And it forces Vucevic into situations that I don't think are necessarily ideal for him because Queta keeps getting into foul trouble.
It felt like he turned a corner on this front during the season with Queta, with the foul trouble. But now we're back to square one. And the problem is, guys, they're dumb fouls too. Like, you can't foul a guy when you're 80 feet away from the hoop going for like a loose ball or just illegal screens. This stuff, you can't afford to give away those type of fouls in the playoffs in a series like this when you're dealing with guys like Maxey and Edgecombe. So this is something he has to clean up. Joe went away from him entirely in that fourth quarter, which was a little stunning, but also was reflective of the fact that he wasn't being a reliable player last night.
And I just want to sort of expound upon this point because, look, they don't need Queta to get past the Sixers, although it'll be interesting if Embiid comes back. But let's say the Knicks are able to salvage this series with the Hawks, or down the line you face the Cavaliers. If you're facing teams with legitimate size and legitimate, like it's not Andre Drummond and Adem Bona, who might be one of the worst, offensive bigs I've seen in a while, you're going to need Queta defensively to be able to stay on the floor. So this is about more than just this 76ers series where it's probably not that big a deal, because that's the way I'm trying to evaluate things for the Celtics. What do they need to do to win a championship or get to the finals? That's why I'm harping on the White shooting thing. They can get through the series with him shooting like this. It's fine. The same with Queta. But ultimately, to be able to get out of the East, they're going to need a little more. These are issues they need to resolve. So if you end up facing Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. Kata can't get in this level of foul trouble. If you end up facing Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, he can't get in this level of foul trouble. He has to be able to stay on the floor.
All right, your thoughts on the Celtics last night, those two big threes in the last 91 seconds from Jayson Tatum to help seal it and take a 2-1 series lead over the 76ers. 617-779-0985 is the phone number to join us here in the Sports Hub Celtics Show today.
We'll have more of the Sports Hub Celtics Show next.
How we came back with that, too. So as much as we've been rightfully on Derrick White for his poor shooting, that rebound there was huge.
Oh, winning play.
Yeah.
Hashtag winning play.
And this is why I still like him. He defends well. He can block. His rebounding is excellent. So, he does still bring you that. It's just, do you think part of this is because of the way that they've played that, because Derrick White's probably my favorite player on the team, but that, because of the play style, especially last year with being so three-centric, that he ended up turning himself almost into a Kyle Korver, Ray Allen type, which he really isn't. I mean, he can shoot the three, but not to the volume that I think that they have him shooting it sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, that is true. He's gone through some of these sort of dry spells before, like when he first got to the Celtics. Remember, Ime was trying to pump him up and pump up his confidence from deep, and as B-Rob pointed out, it's been a tough year shooting for him overall. At one point in the beginning of the year, like the first 20 games or so, he was among the league leaders in missed three-pointers. But he's better than this, and they do need him because ideally, if the team is clicking the way it's supposed to be, he's the third guy in their big three. I mean, it's really more like a core four. You have the Jays and then White and Pritchard in my mind. But they are at some point going to need the real Derrick White offensively to help take some of the scoring burden off of the Jays. Or if that's not going to happen and he's going to be sort of this level of offensive player, then that puts more pressure on Peyton Pritchard, who I actually thought, as great as Tatum was, and he was, I mean, he closed it out. I thought the biggest shot of that game came from Peyton Pritchard with another patented Peyton Pritchard buzzer beater. This time it was, beating the shot clock. That three-pointer he hit with 1:17 to go. It's a 2-point game. Tatum kind of flips him the ball like it's a grenade at the end of the shot clock.
Yeah.
And Pritchard freed himself and hit that three. I thought that was and then they're up 5 with a minute 17 to go. I thought that was the biggest shot of the game.
Yeah, and then guys like Maxey got cold there, too. But it doesn't feel like to me that this team is going to go away. I don't think look, that's a brutal way for them to lose, and it felt like Tatum ripped their hearts out last night.
Absolutely.
But they're a tougher team than I gave them credit for. I thought this was going to be easy. At best, maybe a 5-game series. If they took another one, if they took tomorrow night, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, they'll be desperate, obviously, tomorrow night. B-Rob and I were just talking about this in the break. Does Embiid play? Embiid's getting closer.
Yeah, he was listed as doubtful before.
Doubtful, correct. Right? Upgraded from out to doubtful. He was on the bench. I sort of question how much just a day would make for him really being, or if you want to look at his 2 days, for being able to play. I think you'll see him in Game 5. At that point, are we tied 2-2 or is it 3-1? That could make the series a little bit more interesting overall. But, Philadelphia as a team, they do have some talent. They're undersized without Embiid, and that's an advantage for the Celtics with Tatum's obvious height and the way the Celtics are able to play and what Derrick White can do rebounding as a guard. But you're right, they're not going to go away. They're a feisty team, and they have guys who can get hot. And I think maybe the scary thing, if you're the Celtics, and scary might be overstating it, but if you're looking at it, let me flip it around. If you're the Sixers and you're looking for something that's positive, I think you can say, has there really been a Tyrese Maxey game in this series? He was great in the fourth quarter of Game 2, outscoring Tatum and Brown by himself down the stretch. But I don't really feel like we've had this Tyrese Maxey game. Yeah, he hasn't gone off. Last night, 31 points on 31 shots. Eventually, you have to feel like he's going to have a really good game.
Yeah, and B-Rob, so do you think there'd be any more lineup shuffling from Missoula, for at least for tomorrow or going forward?
I don't think so for now. I think you saw the adjustments. I think the pick and roll defense on Maxey, they had the big moved up a little bit closer, so that drop wasn't there. And the Celtics, I think the guards did a much better job of just navigating screens in those games and making those jumpers a little tougher for Maxey. But I think at this point it's just going to be like, all right, can we keep Nemi out of foul trouble? Can we keep him on the floor for 25, 30 minutes? But it's clear that Vooch has earned a lot of trust right now. And then with guys like Shireman and Jordan Walsh, who are splitting minutes right now with Hauser. I think everyone's going to get a chance. It's like, who are you going to go with? Like, who has something, who's hitting shots, who's playing well defensively, and that's the guy that Missoula is going to go with on any given night.
I did want to just raise one other thing here, B-Rob, because you and I were kind of smiling and chuckling a little bit. Are they just willing to live with Vucevic defensively, or do you feel like they can improve that? Because he gave up, 2 easy baskets to Andre Drummond late in that game. I mean, one of them, you could tell Tatum kind of rolled his eyes, looked to the sky, like, what are you doing? The one where George was basically stumbling towards
Right.
the basket was really contained by Jaylen Brown, and then Vucevic came over to help and gave up an easy layup. He is a massive defensive liability.
He is, and I think they're willing to live with it if he's hitting some threes. And that's what he was doing last night. He was 3 of 9 from downtown, and that's an element that Keita does not give them. So I think ideally you don't have him on the floor in those spots for that reason, but as long as the his ability to spread the floor, create some more space for Tatum and Brown and company, he did that on a couple occasions last night. As long as he's doing that, then I think they're going to be willing to live with the other side of the floor.
And so I guess my question, and I'm okay with it too, is are they willing to live with it at this level, or do they feel like it can get better? Sometimes we forget he hasn't played that many games as a Celtic. He's not known for being a great defender, but do they feel like the more he's out there, the more comfortable he'll get with the system, and it can get better than it was last night?
They have to hope, but the problem is, Chris, I feel like the competition is going to get so much tougher.
Yeah.
Like the Sixers, that is not a scary offense outside of Maxey. But if you're going against the Knicks, you're going against the Hawks, you're going up against the Cavs, they got 4 or 5 guys that's going to be able to burn them, and they're going to have a target on Vooch's back in all these fourth quarter minutes. So it's nice that he can start maybe building some chemistry, figuring out where he should be in these spots, but I'm not optimistic. The guy's 35 right now. This is what he's been his whole career.
Dean in Shrewsbury is first up here this afternoon on the Sports Hub Celtic Show. Hello, Dean.
Hello. I'm not surprised that Marcus Smart is excelling. He was always miscast as a wing when he was really a pure point guard. That's what part of the reason why he's averaging so much more assists and going to the rim more. Tommy Heinsohn always used to say he should play more like he did in college, with being this bulldog that pins his ears back and goes to the rim, plus having the ball in his hands. He's a terrible catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, but he's unique in the league. He's probably the only person who shoots better on pull-ups than catch-and-shoot opportunities. He actually led the league one year in pull-up three-point percentage, so this is just a much better role for him, and I'm not surprised he's excelling in it.
Yeah, maybe. It's his 4th team.
He's still not that good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. But are we going to...
he's great in this role.
Yeah.
And also, for those who watched that game, as well as he played, Houston would have won the game. Jabari Smith literally threw the game away and literally threw it to him at the end with a 6-point lead and 30 seconds to go.
Did you guys hear Ime after the game?
Yeah, that his team has to grow up. How about you call a timeout, Ime? How about that? How about you call a timeout when you see your young team melting down? Here's a hot take for you. I think the Celtics, and look, Ime did a really good job. He took the team to the finals, and I like him as a coach. They might have dodged a bullet in the end from the standpoint of some of his in-game management, and Joe is an upgrade. I'm sorry. That team, this is like 2 years in a row. They're not great in close and clutch games. I know they don't have Kevin. I could go on a whole Kevin Durant rant. You have a little ankle injury, so you can't play. I'm not buying it. I'll go full WWE Sports Talk Radio on this. He feels like it's going to be embarrassing. He knows this team's going to lose the series. He feels like it's going to be embarrassing to lose to LeBron and a Lakers team without Luka and Reeves, and he's checking out.
Mike, and I like it. That's
he's checked out because he knows it's bad for his legacy. He was terrible in Phoenix last year. Phoenix got back in the playoffs this year when they got rid of him. He is tracking to be one of the more
soft players in league
soft
history.
And also sort of in terms of impact on winning, not individual skill set, but impact on winning, overrated great players in NBA history. There's a little Joe Thornton to him. And I know he's won championships, but he ended up joining a team that was already winning championships.
He had to go to a super team.
Him. Right.
Yeah. Mike in the car. You're next here on the Sports Hub Celtic Show today. Hi, Mike.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Great show. So You did touch on a couple of the points I was going to make regarding Vucevic. My overall thought is I don't love the way the offense looks when he's in the game. I know Cater was in foul trouble last night, so that was the reason why he was in a little bit more than usual. But for the amount of shots that he takes, I feel like some of them should be closer to the basket, at least to start.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, I've noticed a couple. One, I'll say two things. One, I think one of the best actions the Celtics have is the Tatum-Kata pick and roll. They have incredible chemistry on that pick and roll. And Kata is such a great rim runner, and he's also a very good passer. I know one thing, Brad Stevens has talked about is that, Kata, when he was at Utah State, was a really good passer, and they've been able to unlock some of that at the NBA level. So the chemistry and just the way Kata plays, I agree, is a better fit for the offense. But I would also say when I watch the Celtics play, there are times that Vucevic has a mismatch or he has a guy in the post and they just ignore him. It's kind of like that old, do you remember that old Saturday Night Live skit with Tony Kukoc? Do you ever see that one?
I don't know if I know.
He's
that.
like, pass me the ball. I'm open. Pass me the ball. Pass me the ball.
Okay, yeah.
And it's like, they don't, there are times he has guys in the post or he has a mismatch and they're just kind of like, no, we're going to do what we do out here on the perimeter. So I don't put that all on Vucevic. I think there are times they could dump it into him or he has a clear mismatch with a smaller guy on him and they don't give him the ball.
All right, so where's Game 4 tomorrow night? We've had to deal with Peacock, Amazon, and that awful broadcast team last night. Isn't this fourth game somewhere else now that's not on real TV?
It's on Peacock. It says NBC Peacock. I don't know if that's legitimate. Is that real NBC?
Probably NBC Sports Network, my guess, if it's that.
I'm looking at ESPN. It says It just says NBC Peacock.
So does that mean I get to go to NBC Sports Boston and it's on?
No. It's either on NBC Sports Network.
Yeah, which is different from NBC
which
Sports
is
Boston.
which I get through YouTube TV. That's an easy watch. Or I think this one might be on main NBC because NBC has Sunday Night Basketball.
That's true. Well, I'll check that for you.
Can you check that?
Yeah, the look, it's everyone else's complaint too. Some of it looks better. I mean, the feed on Peacock is amazing. Actually, it looks incredible. And as much in the past when I've bitched about when the Red Sox are on Apple, that broadcast looks stellar. It's that you can't flip. I want to flip.
I know. I want to flip too.
I want, last night, I'm obviously, my eyes were on the Celtics game, not just because I want to watch them, but also because of work, and I have to. But, I also do have I love the NHL playoffs. This Montreal Lightning series has been phenomenal. I'd like to flip. Can I flip? No, I can't flip.
Or get the picture-in-picture, or the multi-view. I like the multi-view.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. And every effing game is somewhere else. Just put it on real TV, regular TV.
It is NBC for Game 4.
No, there you go. So NBC doesn't get any easier
All
than
right,
that.
good.
You know what also sucks about
real TV?
What?
The fast forward and rewind, I think, is terrible compared to the other ones.
That's so true.
Like, I don't know why
it messes it all up. That's a great point.
Like, they need to figure that out. Like, if you're going to be a streaming service, that has to be easy. I mean, I'm coming from YouTube TV where it feels like seamless, but last night it's clunky. It freezes up way too much. Figure it out.
But you know what is cool about it though? Like if you like the game, let's say like for me last night, I'll be honest. I watched more of the draft than I did of the Celtics game. I watched the fourth quarter of the Celtics game. But what's cool is that when the game ends, you can just go back and go down and restart the game. Like it will let you just go, I missed this game. You can just still, scroll down and start the game from the beginning immediately.
So does this mean we get Tirico tomorrow night then?
I would think so.
Good.
I think so.
All right.
He's good.
A real broadcaster on real TV. This is what I want. Enough of it. I've had it.
I will say this. What's the guy? You say the guy's name? Collins? Something Collins?
Eric Collins.
Eric Collins and Del Curry. I did not enjoy that broadcast, but however, they came from Charlotte. The Charlotte crew. Is that right?
Yeah, they're the Hornets.
They
crew.
could bribe me with mellow mushroom pizza into liking them.
Awful. All right, we'll continue to take more of your Celtics calls, as if that just couldn't have got worse. We had to talk about where they broadcast these games and these terrible. Chris also wants to talk about mellow mushroom pizza.
I love mellow mushroom.
If you've been south of the Mason-Dixon, do it to yourself. If you want to light money on fire for terrible pizza,
it's not terrible.
Mellow
it's
mushroom,
excellent crust.
Oh, by
Very
the way,
good.
The sucky Red Sox are already leading 2-0 over the Orioles in the top of the second down Camden Yards. Get excited about them. We'll take more of your calls on the Celtics when we return at 617-779-0985.
The Sports Hub Celtics show continues after these.
All right, there's former Celtics coach, now Rockets coach, Ime Udoka. See sees his team. It should have called a timeout. Ended up losing to the Lakers last night in Game 3 in Houston.
What a meltdown that was.
Oh, my Lord. So a crazy comeback for the Lakers. They now take a commanding 3-0 lead over the Rockets last night. Taking a look at some of the other series right now. Thunder obviously up on the Suns. No big surprise there, 2-0. Minnesota up 2-1 on the Nuggets.
And, trash-talking the Nuggets all series long. Jaden McDaniel talking about none of their guys can guard. Rudy Gobert's done a good job on Joker. They've really, not only are they beating him in that series, but they are basically trash-talking the Nuggets. And, it's kind of like at the end of Rocky 3 when he's saying to Club, you ain't so bad.
Yeah.
You ain't so bad. You ain't nothing. That's kind of what you're getting from Minnesota to Jokic and the Nuggets.
Yeah, I thought that would be a good series, but they basically embarrassed Denver in that last game. Pistons, they've now tied up that series with the Magic.
Big game this afternoon. They tip off at 1 on Peacock and NBC Sports Network. That's a big game for the Pistons.
And Raptors, Cavs up 2-1 in that one. Maybe the biggest surprise, though, is the Knicks are down 2-1 to the Atlanta Hawks.
Bearing the lead right now.
Yeah, this is the one. I mean, those last two possessions for the Knicks in that Game 3 were just a complete cluster F. And
I mean, that's a Mike Brown special. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, right. And so this is, I think we all assumed that it would be Celtics-Knicks in round 2, but I don't think that that's a given at all now.
No, I agree. And even if it gets to that point, I think the Knicks are having a bigger chunk taken out of them and are under more duress in this series than was anticipated. They have struggled to close out these games. C.J. McCollum has gone full villain in these games. You mentioned sort of the last possession there for the Knicks. They have one of the best closers in the game, and Jalen Brunson.
How old is he now? Sorry to cut you. How old is C.J. McCollum now?
He has to be in his 30s.
But go on, sorry.
No, it's fine. But one of the best closers in the game, but that was a terrible last possession where Brunson's fumbling the ball away. Mike Brown, to me, has never been a great offensive coach or great at sort of drawing stuff up. And if you just look at the Knicks, obviously they beat the Celtics last year, but they've underachieved to me this year. And when you look at how much they gave up, how much they sacrificed to bring in guys like Mikal Bridges, guys like OG Anunoby, it still doesn't seem to fit. They try and basically play their 5 best players, and they've done this for 2 or 3 years now. Their 5 best players as the starting lineup, and I still feel like they'd be better off with one of those guys coming off the bench. That doesn't mean that this isn't their finishing 5, but I still feel like one of those guys would be better. They'd be better staggering them and coming off the bench. Bridges in that game, 0 for 3, didn't score any points, banged up a little bit. But if you look at that and what they should be getting out of guys like Mikal Bridges, Anunoby had a really good game, but he's sort of inconsistent. And then I'll say this about Karl Anthony Towns. I've always liked him as a player, but again, he has that Joe Thornton factor. And what I mean by that is, remember when John Tortorella said, love Joe, good player, but he's one of the great losers in our game?
Yeah.
It's kind of that with Cat. And Cat's not an actual loser, but for someone with his talent level, you just think he would win more and impact winning more and be more consistent. You remember the series he had a couple of years ago in Minnesota against Jokic? He was awesome. And it's just you want to see more of that consistently, not if you're a Celtics fan, but I'm just saying as a basketball fan, you want to see more of that consistently from him. And it's just he should be dominating some of these games. He should be really impacting these games. And the biggest advantage I'd say the Knicks have in this series should be Cat and Mitchell Robinson, and it's just not playing out that way.
Yeah, he's a trick-or-treat guy in the playoffs.
He really is.
Straight up. And the problem is with the Hawks just play so fast that whether it's Towns or Mitchell Robinson, they can't play those guys together because they're getting beat up and down the floor where they do, and neither of them are, beating up on Okongwu down low. So you have that, and then the Hawks just have a bunch of perimeter defenders that can kind of slow down Brunson enough, whether it's Daniels. Jalen Johnson's obviously a really good player.
He's a fun player
too. He's exactly. So it's kind of all come together for them in the last 2-3 months of the season. You wonder if it's legit or not when the playoffs start, but now this feels like it's going to go 7.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, and that's where I would look for some the thumb on the scale type calls from the from the officiating.
Good old-fashioned
officials.
NBA outcome engineering.
Yeah, because look, they're a fun little spunky team. Again, I like Jalen Johnson, but if you're the league and you're Adam Silver, you're looking at this saying like, okay, we can't have this. We can't have the Atlanta Hawks beating the Knicks in this first round. So I would look for some influence there. Rick on the Cape next here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show. Hello, Rick.
Yeah. How you doing?
Good. What's up?
Good.
Good. I want to talk about the lack of traveling calls and palming calls and hand checking. And what I'm watching in basketball, it's changed a lot. A step and a half, what it used to be back in the day. Now it's what? 3 steps before you call for traveling?
Sometimes 4. I'll tell you, there was a B-Rod. I don't know if you remember this play. It was game 2 of Celtics Sixers. It was VJ Edgecombe on a leak out, and he never put the ball on the floor and took 4 steps. They gave him the old Scotty. I used to call it the old Scotty Pippen palm the ball step, like a step to be able to kind of grip the ball and palm it. I mean, it was as clear a travel as you're ever going to see. He took 4 steps without dribbling to go and dunk, and I was like, "Yep, that's pretty much the NBA."
They must have highlighted after the game because they called him on it in the fourth quarter last night.
That's true. That is true.
Wild.
They did get him,
and on a pretty uncontested drive into the lane there. But yeah, this is. You can find probably 10 of those every game at this point.
I mean, that one, I just want them to call the egregious ones. There was another one in this series where I can't remember. Maybe it's Paul George went into the lane. It might have also been game 2. And he went into the lane, and it was very clear that he took 3 steps. Like, very clear. Just call the obvious ones. Palming, can I be honest with you? I never want them to call palming. I like the Allen Iverson dribble. They called like a palming call on Jaylen Brown, where I was like, come on, man. This is the NBA palming, carry. I don't really want those calls, but some common sense traveling calls, yes.
Stone and Natick, you're next here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show. Hello, Stone.
Hey, guys. I'm really not happy with how many threes the Celtics are taking again. I mean, 53s in game 2, I think it was.
Yep.
And then 47 again yesterday, if that number's correct. I mean, this is literally how they lost against the Knicks last year in the playoffs. And I think it's one thing to do it against a 76ers team with no Embiid. So who knows if they'll be good enough to take advantage of it. But, I just don't think it looks like they've really learned their lesson all that much.
Yeah, Stone, it didn't feel that way in game 2. I mean, I'm with Felger in that's the blueprint for how you're going to lose this, whether and it's probably not going to be against the 76ers, but if they get tripped up trying to come out of the East, they're taking 53s a game, and they're missing 37% of them, well, that's why you're going to end up failing like you did last year, because it's the same blueprint as to why you lost to the Knicks.
B-Rob, I'm just curious from your standpoint, in terms of the threes, is that something that Philadelphia is allowing them, kind of luring them into? Is it a matchup thing? Are those the shots that the Celtics want? Why has the volume of threes gone up? It's higher than it was during the regular season.
The Sixers do give up the most corner threes in the league.
Okay, there you go.
So that's Nick Nurse's MO is just taking away the paint. And so the Celtics are taking what's there. I'm with you, Jim, on the fact that it has a little bit too high for my liking, but it was also wild last night that they were shooting the lights out in the first half. They couldn't get any separation in that game because they kept on throwing the ball away with these turnovers. So, but yeah, I think the good news on this front, Jaylen Brown in that fourth quarter before he kind of handed the baton to Tatum, he was getting to the rim. Like, he was making the tough shots from the mid-range, getting to the basket a couple times. He took 16 shots last night. Only 2 were from 3. So he still has the mindset, I'm going to get to the rim here and not rely on getting the 3 ball as much, I feel like.
All right, we will continue with more of your calls. You want to weigh in on the Celtics? Have at it at 617-779-0985. One more segment to go here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show.
You're listening to the 98.5 The Sports Hub Celtics Show.
Is your stone foundation in need of repair or waterproofing? Call Done Right Services. We use proven old-school methods to
779-0985. All right, so is it going to continue to be a struggle for Game 4 tomorrow, which, of course, will tip off here, 7 o'clock, with Randy and Max on the Sports Hub? Because to me, it's been, I figured there was going to be a letdown, maybe in Philadelphia, that they lost at home. What did I see? B-Rob, do you know it off the top of your head? What their record in Game 2s in playoff series is something horrific over the last handful of years. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I saw that statue. I have to look that up, though.
Okay, so maybe that shouldn't have been a surprise. But look, the Sixers are game. And if Maxey and Edgecombe didn't go as cold as they did in the fourth quarter, maybe we're talking about a 2-1 Sixers series lead going into tomorrow's Game 4. But expect more of a rock fight, Chris?
Yeah, I think it could be another rock fight for the Celtics. Let's see if Embiid comes back or not. But I'm confident in them at this point. My expectation is that they're going to win, and if they don't, let's see how it plays out. I won't sort of panic about it. But this is not a series where you want to, as Mark Jones would say, play with your food. We just talked about the Knicks struggling with the Hawks and that taking a chunk out of them potentially. You don't want to be in that same class and in that same vein. And the other thing, again, everything when we talk about the Celtics, as I've stated, I'm trying to look at it, and we can do this. The team can't do this. The team can't look past the 76ers, but we can. I'm trying to look at it, what it means and how it plays out in terms of chasing a championship. And so, B-Rob, I want to ask you this question. When you look at Jordan Walsh, because one of those turnovers that late in the game, or in the fourth quarter, I should say, that Jaylen Brown had, Maxey picked his back pocket, and Maxey had Jordan Walsh and basically just abandoned him. It was clear. It was like, whatever, man. I'm going to leave you wide open. If you end up scoring somehow, like, I'll gamble on that. Is he just in the rotation in this series because of his defense and the success he's had against Maxey, or is there a chance he's in the rotation the whole thing? Because when I look at it, I feel like with each game, they're getting to a point where they are really solidifying what the rotation is. And to me, it looks like a 9-person rotation. And the people coming off the bench are Vooch, Pritchard, Garza, Shireman.
Yeah, I think the defense is why he's in here right now on Maxey. And that could continue. Like, you could still use that. You're going to be seeing more small, quick guards as this series rolls, as the playoffs roll on. So it's not like this is just going to be it for him. But without a doubt, like, Shireman is the more trusted guy right now offensively. And so that has been the case for the last couple of months, and I think that's going to continue here as we get these playoffs rolling around. So unless Walsh can show in these series that teams have to respect him, then I think that as soon as his defensive need goes down, then I think we're going to see more Shireman.
But Walsh has been particularly good. I mean, Walsh is a good defender, but he's been particularly good on Maxey. So I feel like this is just specific to this series. Do you think that in an ideal world that Joe wants to go 10 deep? Because normally playoff rotations aren't 10.
No. And I honestly think Garza's like on the fringe there. Garza's just there in terms of if foul trouble hits both Vooch and Keita, or if Vooch doesn't have that night and you just want to mix it up. But ultimately, the guys I think they're definitely going to play every night off the bench are Pritchard, Vooch, and Shireman at this point, and that's where it's going to stop.
It's amazing that Shireman, and you think about the beginning of the year, you had Minot was there for a little, and then Jordan Walsh had his stint in the starting lineup. And Ugo, our guy Chris Forsberg was going nuts over Ugo every night. Like, Shireman was kind of the odd man out, and now he's definitely in the playoff rotation. It's just interesting how that's played out through the course of the year.
Yes, I think I found that stat I was looking for from Grandy. Celtics last 20 home playoff games, in game twos they're 3-4. All others 11-2.
Oof. And how many? The
last 20 home playoff games.
Okay.
In game twos, they're 3-4, and all the others 11-2. Right?
Oh wow, gotcha. Okay.
And the kids, the 24 finals run, they lost to the Heat at home in the first round of Game 2, Cavs in Game 2 at home, and then obviously to the Knicks last year in another disastrous Game 2. So yeah, it's been a little Achilles heel for them, but they've come back and they've been pretty much unstoppable in these Game 3s on the road of late, outside of last year in Orlando.